ഹരീഷ് സാർ കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? ഹരീഷ് സാർ?
കേൾക്കാം. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sir. Then I will introduce you. Harish sir, a presentation.
I'll share the screen.
Okay. Dear participants, welcome to the third session on the second day of our FDP. Today, there is a presentation on the development of metal matrix composite through various advanced production routes. And we have Mr. Harish TM as our resource person. Mr. Harish is currently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Federal Institute of Science and Technology, Ankamali. He is pursuing his PhD in the field of welding metallurgy from Department of Metallurgical and Materials Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Trichy. He has completed postgraduate degree in welding engineering from Metallurgical and Materials Engineering Department, NIT Trichy itself, and bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from MA College of Engineering, Kodamangalam. He started his career as a lecturer in Department of Mechanical Engineering at NIT Calicut. He is a professionally qualified welding engineer and NDT inspector, and has received NDT Level 2 certificate as per American Society of Non-Destructive Testing, ASNT. He is a lifetime active member of various professional bodies like Indian Welding Society and Society of Failure Analysis. He has authored several research papers in reputed international journals and has attended numerous conferences in the international and national level. He has also received Best Technical Paper awards in various national conference and international conferences. His research interests include welding metallurgy, composite material technology, advanced high temperature materials, and their processing. Harish, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Reddy sir. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, the screen is visible.
Yeah, fine. Yes, very good afternoon to all luminaries assembled here. So, as the convener mentioned, I'm going to take a session on topic development of metal matrix hybrid composite through advanced production routes. So, moving on to my presentation, these are the contents I have structured for today's session. We will begin the basics of the composite initially, especially we are dealing with the metal matrix composite, and we'll discuss some of the composite markets right now, the scenario, the scope and challenges related to the metal matrix composite, and also we'll discuss some of the production routes that is available for metal matrix composite, and I have structured some of the research work we have conducted in the department, including stir casting, then friction stir processing, etc. And also we will flow through the production cost and the manufacturing trends for the upcoming years. So moving on to the topic, we were aware about the composite right now because by starting in the materials or the development of the materials, earlier stages we use pure materials for different application. It is not sufficient. While moving on towards the modern era, we required alloys substitute to pure metals, and after that we have developed the composite. See, the composite is an engineering material system that is made up from a combination or mixture of at least two constituent materials with significantly different properties, whose combination forms a new material in which the properties differ from its individual constituents. So on a microscopic scale, these individual constituents of composite can be still identified distinctly and separate from each other. Our composite are multi-phase materials that which are normally classified as matrix and dispersed or secondary or reinforcing phases, where the matrix phase embeds the dispersed phase and the dispersed phase serve as the underpinning agent for the matrix phase. Therefore, the metric is continuous, whereas the dispersed phase can be either continuous or it can be of a discontinuous. So the major purpose of the dispersed phase is that mainly to strengthen or soak the material, while the matrix phase transfers the stress to the dispersed phase. So the efficiency of the stress transferred through the interface between the phases plays a vital or critical role in the behavior and the performance of the composite. So there are generally a wide classification of composite, as we mainly focus on to the metal matrix composite or the matrix based composites. And the property improvement in case of metal matrix composite that ensures from a combination of various factors, such as first one is the judiciary selection of matrix and the reinforcement. Then second one we need to consider as the careful selection of primary and secondary processing routes. And third is the different heat treatment process adopted for a certain kind of or certain class of materials we used. So in general, the composite materials, according to the matrix, we classified into three categories as they are mentioned. The first one is the polymeric based metal matrix composite, we call it as PMC. Then second one is the metal matrix composite, in which the metal forms the matrix phase. And the third category is the ceramic matrix composite, that is the CMC. And again, this polymer matrix either embedded into thermoset or thermoplastic or even rubber. So today's discussion of our topic is mainly focused on the metal matrix composite. And in addition to the knowledge what we have gathered so far about the metal matrix composite, mainly the properties of composite materials are related to the constant properties and the relative amount of the individual constants which contains in it. The most initiative and the simplest method for predicting the properties of a composite is nothing by using the rule of mixtures. This rule comprises a set of equations that is derived from the basic assumptions such as both the materials are homogeneous, isotropic, and behave like a linear elastic manner. And this is the most widely used equation we use to predict the composite density, tensile strength, modulus of elasticity, hardness, and coefficient of thermal expansion, etc. So this mainly our metal matrix composites are nowadays used in wide variety of application. According to the selection route and according to the types, we were using the metal matrix composite even from the automobile field to the aerospace field. So this just flows through some of the major application of composite that which are used in the aerospace sector as well as the automotive sector. So nowadays there exists a numerous technique for producing composite structures, some of which have been adopted and implemented from traditional manufacturing techniques. And some of the techniques, there are several techniques were developed to satisfy the specific manufacturing or design challenges. So the selection of particular manufacturing technique to produce a composite is mainly depend upon the structure design, materials and application. So these forms the major part of a selection of what the manufacturing technique we need to adopt for the fabrication of MMC. That is mainly the first is the structure, then second one is the materials, and the third one is the application. While we moving on to the automotive application of metal matrix composite, it started in late 1983. That is when Toyota placed into commercial production this metal matrix composite pistons were used for diesel engine. That is Q-cast piston composed of aluminum that is reinforced with ceramic particles and fibers provided a sufficient or significant improvement in the thermal and fatigue resistance in comparison to the metal matrix on its own. So this allowed the use of tighter clearances which lead to the higher pressure and improved heat transfer properties. And in late 1990s, Honda, they started to mass produce Qscar cylinders, liners, and engine blocks from hybrid performs consisting of Al2O3, aluminum oxide and carbon fibers reinforced in aluminum matrix. So this aluminum-based metal matrix composite promoted a dramatic weight reduction of the engine blocks and a superior wear resistance than that of the cast iron. Earlier we used cast iron for the manufacture of the engine blocks, and later on 1990 that was replaced by the aluminum-based carbon fiber composites. So this AMC cylinders liner were also incorporated in Toyota and Porsche engines, and in Honda, motorcycles are equipped with AMC cylinder liners that are produced via powder metallurgical routes. And in later 1998, the Toyota engine were equipped with titanium matrix composite. See, it started from the aluminum matrix, then move on to the magnesium matrix, then we have the copper matrix, cobalt matrix, and also the matrix we use as the titanium matrix for the production of this metal matrix composites. And there are several examples to increase the specific stiffness of drive shaft, then to reduce the overall vehicle or mass manufacture that adopted for AMC, and Chevrolet and Ford also have successfully used stir cast aluminum oxide to reinforce aluminum 6 series drive shafts in their vehicles. So different routes are adopted and different various levels in which we are used the composite. Not only we are subjected to the automotive field because of its lightweight application, we just replace most of the aerospace components nowadays with the metal matrix composite. That is our area of interest, in which we can replace our material, bulk material, with the help of different varieties of composite which having a specific strength, then stiffness, and also it can stable to altering the various conditions like corrosion, wear, etc. So while we moving on to the composite market, that is very important. Why we require to do a research in a metal matrix composite is that the composite market is exhibiting a strong growth across many industry sectors and application due to the need for materials that have distinct properties and are environmentally friendly, as well as it is a cost effective. So the growing of this vehicular carbon emission levels across the globe has forced to reform the various policies concerning to vehicle emissions. So due to the stringent emission regulations and high production demands, manufacturers have implemented an incremental improvements in weight reduction, and also the fuel efficiency are also improved in most of the vehicles. So this has ignited the automotive composite market in such a way as shown in the figure. This graph represents the automotive composite market revenue forecast for the United States of America. So it is estimated that in USA alone will generate an automotive component market revenue that is almost around 1 billion in 2025. So it is noted that at the end of 2018 or in 2021, the global automotive composite market generated a revenue more than 15.7 billion. So composite are also become increasingly popular not only in automotive sector, in the aerospace industry, as well as they provide a good level of toughness and strength and reduce the overall weight of the aircraft. So among many other industry, what we have and many other sectors, that is the growth in demand for the composite materials, then the energy sector represents an enormous source of demand and will soon surpass the aerospace sector as a top user for the composite materials. So even though it can generate a revenue in automotive field, see how extent it will be, we can replace it with the composite materials, right? The production will move to a very far extent if we substitute most of our material we replaced in aerospace with the help of the composite materials. And then before maybe moving on to the metal matrix composite, we are going to classify the metal matrix composite in these several categories. While we discussing about the metal matrix composite, the first thing is that our matrix is the metal phase. It can be of any metal, but it should be a metal. And it will be dispersed with different kind of this reinforcing agents. Accordingly, we categorize metal matrix composite into the first category. What they have listed is the dispersion hardened and particle composites. Then the second one is layer composites, or we call this as the laminites. And the third one is the fiber composites. And the last one is the infiltration composite, that is developed via powder metallurgy techniques. So, and also it shows a schematic representation of 3 samples of metal matrix composite materials. So, in particles, normally we are embedding the metal particles or hard cremate particle, we call it as ceramic particles, into the mechanical matrices. So it will generate a particle reinforced composite, that is most commonly used in many of the sectors. And later on, it's move on to the development of viscous or short fibers. So these fibers which can be embedded into the matrix, either a carbon fiber or it can be of a different graphite fiber. So it can be any type of fiber, or even glass also we can replace, or we can place it as a reinforcing agent in a metal. So it can be used as a short or viscous fibers. And also we can also use the continuous filament with the help, and we can reinforce to the material. So we take a metal, we place a matrix as a continuous reinforcement, we'll again place a metal, and we set up a 3 to 4, 5 layers continuously, so it can give a more and more amount of the mechanical properties towards our matrix phase. So according to the arrangement of these fibers in a metal matrix, we do have several classification also, and each one have their own importance in the relevant field of application also. So now we moving on to the production routes for MMC. As we were know that most of your research works and most of the industrial work is focusing to replace our metal. It is, as we can say that we cannot replace our metal with polymer, even though polymers exhibit a very wide varieties of applications, even in the case of superplasticity or in case of extended application, but still metal matrix composites we required while compared to that of the polymer metric or the ceramic matrix composite. So the production route for metal matrix composite can be divided into 2 primary, that is combining and consolidating both. So, and there is a primary and there is a secondary. Then primary one we call it as combining or solidification, and the secondary one we call it as a shaping or joining process. The selection of primary and secondary process is mainly determined by the matrix and the dispersed phase and their respective mechanical thermal properties and their morphology. And it is also determined by the chemical properties of each phase and possible evolution of reaction process establishing the interface between the phases. So especially our composite, if we were subjected towards or exposed towards a very high temperature, so either in processing or it can happen during the service also. So moreover, the selection of a specific primary process is also directed by the ability of this process minimizing dispersed material damage. That is very important. Dispersed material damage, and also preserving dispersed material strength and promoting wetting and bonding between the involved phases during the processing. So many processes are available for production of metal matrix composite, and the dispersed phase can be either created in both the cases. As I mentioned, the dispersed phase either it is in situ or it is ex situ. Where the dispersed phase can be either created in situ or introduced as ex situ phase. In situ synthesizing, where the dispersed phase is created within the matrix. I get the point. The in situ synthesizing, normally what we do is that the dispersed phase is created within the matrix, that is typically occurrence by chemical reaction, which often form the exothermic reaction. So differently, in ex situ is where the dispersed phase is synthesized separately before its insertion into the matrix. That is the difference between an in situ and ex situ phase. Okay, so at present there are several processes of in situ composites. where the advantage of in situ tend to be very process and proprietary specific. However, in general, what we can say, in situ provides more homogeneous distribution of dispersed phase particles. So the dispersed material surface and the dispersed phase matrix interface are more likely to be free of contamination. And this route also tend to ensure better bonding between the particle and the matrix, and also allows the introduction of large volume fraction and small size dispersed material. So essentially, our in situ process, it provides a strong interfacial bonding and reinforcement matrix interfaces are clean. That is very important. So while we process our material, the reinforcement and the matrix interfaces are very clear and clean, so resulting in the improvement in the mechanical properties and also less degradation during the high temperature application. So this is the major thing while we need to consider in the in situ composite. It can obtain a strong interfacial bonding. And the later one, what we have discussed is the ex situ phase. The properties of ex situ processed composite, that is generally depend upon the volume fraction of the dispersed material. And in terms of processing, ex situ enable production of bulk materials that exhibit isotropic characteristics. So for this reason, and also because of the ease of production and the modest production cost, ex situ is more primarily or would prefer over compared to that of the in situ technique. And even the ex situ technique has its own limitation. It has a poor wettability of dispersed material and the reactions of dispersed phase metric interface, etc. So one of the main reason while we go beyond this is that because of the van der Waals force and the electrostatic force in the liquid mixing process, which lead to the particle agglomeration and clustering. Okay, so generally, the production routes for metal matrix composite are of two categories. The first one is the solid state processes, and the second one is the liquid state processes. So, in solid state processes that uses high temperature and pressure to create an atomic diffusion between the metal matrix and a dispersed phase. And these processes are known for diminishing the dispersed phase matrix wetting issues, and is also for reducing segregation effects and brittle reaction in the product formation also. And they also avoid residing segregation effect. That is why we mostly go beyond the solid state process. They also avoid high residual stresses from the solidification shrinkage, and particularly when contrasted with the liquid state processes. And those we process via solid state technique have the highest mechanical property, and that's mainly used for high melting point matrices. And normally most common usage of the solid state process are based on powder metallurgy production routes, and we most commonly use powder metallurgy technique. As we all know that it is a well developed technique that involves a small number of energy efficient steps. So it is a process are suitable for nano ceramic reinforced metal matrix composite. So, and also in respect to powder metallurgy routes are extensively used for new composition and investigation in industries as a part of this production of metal matrix composites. And the second category is the liquid state processing. So in liquid state process have been extensively employed in the production of metal matrix composite, and these processes are characterized by intimate liquid state process. That is, these are characterized because of their intimate interfacial bonding and the strong bonding between the particles. So dispersed material is incorporated into the molten metal matrix, which later undergoes solidification. So in such scenario, for the production route, our material will reach us towards the melting temperature. And the later one, what we have discussed is a solid state processing route, which does not reach towards the melting point. But here in this case, our material, the entire material will move towards the melting point. So, and later this can be used as after the sufficient amount of solidification. So the quality of the dispersed phase matrix interfacial bonding that determines the mechanical property of the component. And here in this case, most commonly we use conventional casting method are used as an example of the liquid state processing technology. Here, one of the problem that can occur with the liquid state process that high temperature processing can stimulate the development of brittle interface layer between the involved phases. That is the major concern in liquid state process. So it can develop a brittle interfacial layer between the involved phases, which adversely later on affects the properties of the composite material. So, and also it is very difficult to provide a uniform distribution of dispersed material without particle floating or sedimenting or clustering or agglomerating in the molten alloy. So we can we can control the viscosity of the liquid composite. We can easily quickly change the dispersed material that is added during the solidification process. So in this technology, it is allowed for large and complex designs which produced and is suitable for large volume production. Commonly we use liquid state processing for large volume of production. Then this shows the extent usage of process utilization for metal matrix composite production in research and development. So if you were interested to work on the metal matrix composite, these are all the various commonly used process which is used for the development of metal matrix composite. So initially what they have mentioned, powder metallurgy are today the most preferable main process for producing metal matrix composite. And this powder metallurgy techniques are encountered, as you can see, they are around 46.2% are conducted by various researchers based on the powder metallurgy techniques, and which is followed by stir casting and friction stir processing. So this is the major commonly used process for the development of metal matrix composite so far. And this powder metallurgy is an effective and versatile route for the production of particle reinforced metal matrix composite. And powder metallurgy is adopted by various researchers. Why? Because it avoids the problem encountered by conventional routes and ensures a good interfacial bonding between the dispersed phase and the matrix. Not only that, it's also promote the homogeneous distribution of dispersed phase in the matrix, and also it prevent the formation of undesirable phases, because while in liquid route they create more number of phases that cannot be controlled, but in powder metallurgy route this can be carefully controlled. That's why additionally the powder metallurgy technique work with any material that produce a good quality of composite. So the technique can be employed for any non-metal for the development of the MMCs. So later on, the choice of casting for production of metal matrix composite is generally due to the higher usage of process in industry. Clear? That is most commonly the metal matrix composite, the field that is associated or the sector that is associated with metal matrix composite are most largely used the casting technique for the development of the metal matrix composite. And the choice of casting as a production route for metal matrix composite is generally due to the higher usage of this process in the industry, as well as the process simplicity, then flexibility, and it is a relatively low cost procedure also. And the next one, what we have mentioned there is the friction stir processing that is also capable for producing surface composite with necessity of melt processing. Okay, so there are new metal matrix composite are evolved in the world, that is by additive manufacturing technique, that has already been examined and offers significant potential for metal matrix production. So these are all the emerging areas, that is additive manufacturing, selective laser sintering, then ultrasonic additive manufacturing. These are all the evolving technique in industry. While the researchers have developed the metal matrix composite with various additive manufacturing technique. And why we go beyond the additive manufacturing technique is that it promises the production of integrated, very complex, lightweight structures with competitive cost, and reduces the lead time also. Some of the mentioned there, selective laser melting, that is an additive manufacturing technique identified as the most promising route for the production of metal matrix composite. It is nothing but a layer by layer by layer fashion of manufacturing. That is freedom. We can say that it is free from fabrication abilities. Then material melting and solidification is controlled in an inert atmosphere also. So this can be used a variety of process while compared to traditional MMC processing routes. So these are all the technique we usually adopted for the development of metal matrix composite. Then while we are moving on to the list of the production routes encountered for a specific metal matrix composite. So during the production of metal matrix composite, occasionally there are two main processes are involved, that is mentioned here. The first one is the major process and the second one is the sub process. So it encountered all the processing sequence under this classification, and what the arrow indicates is that the processing is in the order. Okay, so once we go for casting technique, either it can be of a conventional, then centrifugal, then Rio casting, investment casting, skews casting, ultrasonic casting, tape casting, stir casting, injection casting, and combo casting. So these are all the various casting techniques we adopted for the production of metal matrix composite. And if you're going for powder metallurgy technique, what they have mentioned is the cold pressing, then furnace sintering, then hot pressing, and spark plasma sintering. So if you are interested to work on powder metallurgy technique, the spark plasma sintering technique is the recent adopting technology for the development of many research has been carried out and research gaps are there in spark plasma sintering procedure. And if you go for infiltration technique, it can be a capillary or ultrasonic or a gas pressure or a liquid pressure technique. And if you are going with the additive or dry synthesis technique, it can be of a grinding, sieving, manual mixing, etc. There are two types in which you can follow. First one is the dry synthesis technique and second one is the wet synthesis technique. So these are all the major processes and the sub processes we use for the production route of metal matrix composites. Okay, so while we looking into the comparison of matrix and dispersed materials, that has been done in so far research and development, aluminum and its alloys were the most used matrix material. Clear? Aluminum and its alloy is most widely used as a metal matrix composite. As you can see, there are around 48% of the major works or research works are being done in case of the aluminum matrix composite. That is worth considering because of the reason that it is well known that aluminum is a lightweight metal which has a high thermal and electrical conductivity, low point, and good formability. However, it has a high coefficient of thermal expansion and poor mechanical and tribological properties, thus a need of opportunity for improvement, right, via reinforcement. It's having a very good advantages. And what is the lacking? Aluminum is lacking the poor mechanical and tribological properties which can be improved by a reinforcing. That is an aluminum-based metal matrix composite. And the choice of aluminum in research is also influenced by its low energy input requirements, which make it suitable for most existing MMC's production routes. And there's also high degree of usage within the industry, because most of the industry, if you are searching, the majority of the composite are manufactured with the help of aluminum alloy. And also, while you are moving on through any of the research articles on over 10 to 20 years, most of the work were done in aluminum based metal matrix composite. That doesn't mean that the work is over in aluminum based metal matrix composite. We have different technology like hybridization. More technology are evolving with the aluminum based metal matrix composite. And followingly, there is developments in the copper based metal matrix composite. Then magnesium is also used as one of the metrics for the development of MMC. One of the problems associated with magnesium is that it is a production route is that magnesium is a flammable material, right? So while we processing, a careful control is required for the manufacturing of with the help of magnesium. And even titanium based, we all know that titanium is most commonly used in aerospace engine, especially gas turbine blade, etc. Especially Ti6Al4V is most commonly used in turbine blades. So these are nowadays replaced with, attempts are tried to replace based on titanium-based composite for higher applications. And also the nickel, then stainless steel, then Inconel also plays a vital important roles in the research and development in case of metal matrix composites. Then that's we have discussed the MMC fabrication categories. As I discussed, 3 categories are there. One is solid state processing, then second one is liquid state processing, and third one is the other processing technique. Solid state processing, most commonly we go with the powder forming technique, and liquid state processing we go with the molten metal mix process, that is a casting procedure, or we can go with the in situ processing like infiltration, etc. And we can also go with the other kind of technology adopted for this MMC, that is CIP, HIP, then also sputtering method, that is also in order to have a homogeneity of this deposit matrix, we go with some kind of the sputtering method also. So research also indicated that you can develop your composite based on this kind of listed any kind of fabrication techniques or categories. Then these as a research input, what I am going to share is that these are the extended list of metrics and dispersed materials encountered in hybrid composite. Definitely, we were interested to work in metallic matrix composite, right? And the first and the foremost thing while coming into mind is that how to choose a metal, or how to choose a matrix, how to choose a reinforcement. And if we choose something normally, it may already developed, we cannot produce any kind of articles, right? So this specifically incorporates the dispersed material, that is hybrid composite. What I have mentioned about the hybrid composite, it consisting of 2 or more reinforcement which is incorporating with a metal matrix phase. It can be of a graphene with aluminum, or it can be of a snail shell ash. Also, it can be of a rice husk ash. Along with the particles, we use rice husk ashes. Ashes will give carbon and silicon content. It can also used as a sustainable technique. We can dispose the waste also, right? And we can use a glass bubbles, then bagasse ash, and also we can use groundnut shell ash and rice hulk ash. We can combine with the various barium carbonate, silicon carbonate, titanium boron nitride, then silicon carbonate with fly ash. So these are all the different kind of things were adopted or combined with various. So why I have shown this that we cannot mix all these things together. It mainly depend upon the matrix. You select a particular alloy, 6 series alloys, and if you're choosing 2 or more chromate particles, and if you're adding some other chromate particle, these particle cannot be incorporated into that particular alloy. So it creates a negative results also while we composite the material. So sufficiently, if you are looking into the dispersed material or a hybrid composite, we choose certain kind of rules for choosing of the matrix, and also we seek the major process improvement in many of the hybridization techniques. So these are some of the extended lists that I will share to you. Then, yes, moving on to the stir casting. So what I mean to indent in this technical session is that we are taking a special kind of fabrication routes and case studies. What we have conducted in the department research. So far we have conducted from 2012, we are conducting most of the research associated with the aluminum based metal matrix composite, even magnesium also. So we follow different kind of routes for the development of the metal matrix composite. And the first technique what we are going to discuss about the stir casting. All will think that why this because even though this casting technique is used as a later all technology, still what is the relevance of stir casting? See, majority of the industry still now following stir casting procedure for development of metal matrix composite. Apart from what we are doing in the research, we do different kind of technologies to get paper published, but that is not actually a scenario what we concerned with the actual production sector, right? So normally a large volume of metal matrix composites only possible with the stir casting, not only possible, but majority of the large volume production that being happened in a stir casting procedure. So all know that stir casting is a common, economical and fairly simple method of producing metal matrix composite, that is wherein the reinforcement particles are incorporated into the molten metal matrix, that is aluminum. If you can use aluminum or any metal you can use, and it also consists of a stirrer. As you can see there, stirrer is pointing. The stirrer, we also call the stirrer as the impeller, which is inserted into the molten metal and applies a mechanical stirring with some RPM to get uniform distribution of particles within the molten metal. So this process have been extensively used for incorporate carbon, then carbon nanotubes, graphene, and the metal oxide particles to aluminum and the magnesium matrices. So the main challenges of this technique is that the first one is tendency of secondary particle to cluster due to the high surface area. That is the one of the problem. That is, I cannot say it is a problem. If we can also overcome the problem, the challenge is that tendency of secondary particles to cluster due to the high surface area and resulting in high van der Waals force between them. Then the second one is poor wettability issue of the solid particles with the molten metal. And the third one is the high density of porosity due to the possible entrapment of air induced by the rotating stirrer. That is possible, right? If you are stirring continuously, this air particle can be incorporated into our molten metal and they lead to the porosity, to affect the density of our developed composite. So this is the technique we adopted usually for the development of composite. And what I am shown as a case study, what we have done is about we prepared a aluminum 5056 metal. We developed a new hybrid composite by using agro-industrial waste material from sugarcane industry. That we collected material, the waste material that is expelled from the sugarcane industry, and we combine this with aluminum matrix in order to enhance the properties and to maximize the utilization of this waste materials. So you can choose any metal, right? We can choose a 6 series or you can choose a 8 series. That according to your wish, you can select according to the problem. You can choose different metrics. What we have selected is about the 5056. And we combined that with the Si silicon carbide particle, and we have incorporated this bagasse ash into this, and we make a hybrid composite. So nominally, as you can see here, this is the bagasse ash. So the bagasse ash, what we have done is that we heat treated with the help of electrical muffled furnace. So what happened is that this ash, and this ash we get incorporated into the metal matrix via stir casting procedure. So while we converting this sugarcane waste materials into ash, we required careful control of heating. While we cannot simply heat and take the ash in the normal atmosphere, what happened? Oxidation will take place, right? So this oxidation will take place, it get incorporated, and most of it have a reduced property showing in some of the literatures also. So we carefully heat treated this ashes and incorporated this ashes towards our aluminum bagasse ash inside the mold, and they continuously stir with a continuously stir for several minutes, at 5 to 10 minutes. And also we preheat the silicon carbide and the bagasse ash around 250 degrees Celsius. Why? In order to have a good wettability, because our aluminum having a melting temperature around 680 degrees Celsius or 660 degrees Celsius. And we had the silicon carbide is having a very high temperature compared to that with the aluminum. So both the reinforcement and our chromate particle will get incorporated. Then only you will get the property as we tailored. So both the things will preheat towards the 250 degrees Celsius. And for the wettability issue, that is the very what I have mentioned while discussed during the liquid casting procedure or liquid metal route. The major thing associated is the wettability, right? So in order to improve the wettability, we added magnesium to this mold, and there's a pouring temperature around 700 degrees Celsius, and also furnace temperatures lead to 700 degrees Celsius, and we naturally cooled this 10 minutes to the room temperature, and we developed 4% bagasse ash, 2% bagasse, and 4% bagasse ash with various concentration of silicon carbide. So while we looking into the metallurgical characterization of this, pure aluminum can be seen in the microstructure in the form of alpha aluminum phase, which are represented in the light portion. The dark regions on the microstructure are the grain boundaries, and the intermetallic phases can also be seen in the microstructure. And these intermetallic phases are precipitated on the grain boundaries, and there is a strong interfacial bond can be observed. Why? Because there is no visible trace of porosity and inclusion that has occurred in the interfacial region. So the hybridization technique, what incorporated is that initially this 5 series have certain kind of tailored good properties. So in order to overcome the tribological characteristics, we add silicon carbide to it. So that is a chromate particle. In addition, we add bagasse ash particle. So this bagasse ash, it will give a carbon and silicon content towards our matrix. So it has two uses or two functions. Once it can be used as the perfect sustainable manufacturing production method for the waste disposal. Then second one is that these particles will get incorporated into our matrix. This will give the more amount of carbon content, as we have traced in the DAX analysis. There is a more carbon and silicon content as incorporated into the matrix. So if the carbon content increases, normally our matrix will get a more number of strength. And there is also, we have seen the large number of phases that is generated during the procedure of the stir casting. And during the stir casting, what they identified is that there is a grain dissolution, or the grain even distribution has been taking place. We cannot say that even distribution, more or less uniform distribution is achieved during the mechanical stirring. And also there will be a grain reduction or a grain improvement properties that is occurring in responsive materials. Either some of the material may tend to form a dynamic recrystallization following to fine grain structure, then all are followed by a large grain evolution dendritic structure. So there are many variations can occur, and very improvement in property also significantly noted in the characterization while using the stir casting methodology. So, and also while conduction of the XRD analysis, we have the large number of oxide layers which is present. That is a magnesium oxide, aluminum oxide, and the silicon carbide. Silicon carbide is not uniformly distributed, more or less uniformly distributed in the matrix. And we cannot 100% we cannot say that a uniform distribution is achieved through stir casting process. Still, we required that is a research gap. How to uniformly distribute or uniformly interface these particles into the dispersed matrix. That is still the challenges what the researchers are facing to incorporate these particles uniformly throughout the matrix. But more or less by the selected pros parameters, we can achieve a uniform distribution, and most of the particles are exhibited here in the XRD spectroscope. Then while we moving on to the characterization, mechanical characterization, this aluminum bagasse ash and silicon carbide as having a very high tensile strength and yield strength while compared to that of the pure aluminum and aluminum alloy. Why? Because these particles incorporated in the matrix will lead to the mechanical development of our matrix. So the tensile strength is observed to the highest in the specimen with 2% bagasse ash and 3% silicon carbide. And the later one is lower. When the silicon carbide is introduced, it increases the porosity, which will decrease the tensile strength of the specimen, but there is an increase in the tensile strength of the specimen in the two. As you can see there, because of the strong interfacial. Because of the strong interfacial bond occur. So the decrease in tensile strength of the specimen is also due to the higher porosity. That is later, which I will show in the microscope image. We have seen that there is no porosity visibly traced while compared in the micrograph. So in cases, there is a decrease in tensile strength can also be attributed to segregation of silicon carbide particle in tensile specimen. That is our concern. That is, if the particles are agglomerated, the reason is that if particles are agglomerated, even though if you are manufacturing a composite, it gives an adverse results also in tension values. So that's what I have discussed. The uniform distribution of the dispersed phase is very much important while we select a particular route for the production of AMCs or metal matrix composites. And while moving on to the hardness value or hardness profile, it seemed to be gradually increasing while add reinforcement to the matrix. So in the analysis, the maximum value of hardness is obtained on the specimen with 4% bagasse ash and 3% silicon carbide. as a weight fraction of silicon from the bagasse ash and a well-bounded hard silicon carbide reinforcement are increased in the matrix, and also it will hinder the movement of dislocation, thereby increasing the hardness of component. That if you are incorporating secondary particles into our metal, what happens is that the secondary particle will get embedded into the matrix, and this will create as a dislocation barrier. So if we supply a larger amount of force, we need to overcome this dislocation, then only the load can be trespassed towards the material. That is automatically same as that our material is getting harder because of that. And also it having shows significant improvement in the wear resistance. So we have conducted pin-on disc wear test. So it shows that the dry wear test on a hybrid composite we have carried out on the pin-on disc machine at an ambient temperature around 264 degrees Celsius. So weight loss of all samples were determined constantly load at the velocity of 19.62 and 1.05 meter per second respectively. And it shows the variation of wear rate with respect to time. So from the results obtained, what we can confer is that highest wear rate is obtained for the composite with 2% bagasse ash and 3% silicon carbide. So wear rate is lower for specimen with 4% bagasse ash and 3% silicon carbide. So when silicon carbide particles is introduced into the composite, there is a gradual decrease in the wear rate. It doesn't mean that silicon carbide only gives wear property improvement. You can also use aluminum oxide, titanium carbide, even tungsten carbide. Anything you can use as a chromite particles. And at the initial stage of the test of this aluminum metric is one out of all specimen. So leaving a hard silicon carbide particles on the bone surface. So also which will create a decrease in the wear rate that is occur in the specimen 3 also. So significantly what we can say is that there is a property improvement while the addition of compost. That is, we all know that if we add something, definitely there will be an improvement in the properties. But the reason is that why this property is getting incorporated or why this property is altered in our material, it is mainly because of the production route. See, if you do the same kind of experiment with any other kind of production route, if you go with the powder metallurgy route or if you do with the friction stir processing route, you can significantly improve the property. So it doesn't mean that what the research literature or so far is only the highest thing what we have obtained in that composite. So there are still lot of work we can incorporate or evolve during the production of aluminum based 5056 hybrid composite. Then, so what we can summarize is that the usage of this bagasse ash as reinforcement is an efficient way to increase the property of the hybrid composite, and this also promotes sustainability through waste disposal. You can use a rice husk or you can use coir ashes. So anything you can add in, you can use while comparison with the for the production of a bagasse ashes. Okay. So increasing the silicon content in the aluminum matrix will result in the improvement in the hardness of the composite that also we have seen, and there is also decrease in the wear rate. Then addition of this bagasse ash alone also can improve tensile property of the aluminum, and also we've seen there is a decrement in tensile strength. Okay, so because of the segregation of silicon carbide particle in the tensile test specimen, so that is the research gap. If we have a segregation, definitely we need to eliminate segregation. So what happened? We can alternately improve the tensile property of that particular composite what we have derived. So this is about the stir casting procedure. So you can use stir casting technique for the production of metal matrix composite, but it also lacks a different kind of technological challenges. If you are ready to overcome the technological challenges, then you can produce a good number of research in stir casting. Why? Because this is the most common technique we still use in industry, because industry we cannot replace the materials or the machine that is installed already. If we do some kind of novel technology and say this will show a very great improvement, that we are doing what on a small scale, right? So if you are converting that towards a larger scale, that may be a lot of things incorporated in it, production cost, then the size of the specimen, everything will get concerned. So even though this casting procedure can be also used as a very well technology for development of the aluminum based even metal matrix composite, if you are working with a aluminum based metal matrix composite. Then the next technology is quite interesting about the friction stir processing. This friction stir processing was developed based on the principle of friction stir welding. So the working principle of friction stir processing, it is similar to that of friction stir welding. So during friction stir processing, we have a specially designed tool, a non-consumable tool, which has two components, namely a pin and a shoulder, that is we are using. This one is the shoulder, my arrow point, this is my shoulder and this is my pin. So the tool is plunged or tool is made to rotate at higher speed and a downward force is applied to the tool so that the pin plunges into the base material and the shoulder just touches the surface. So while we supplying a downward force, what happened is that initially the pin will plunge into the material. Then the shoulder will plunge into the material. So the next is the pros parameter. We try to rotate this tool. So as the tool rotates, there is a large frictional heat is generated at the tool workpiece interface that takes the temperature of the material to a range where it becomes a plastic. So the tool is then made to traverse at a dispersed or a desired speed. We rotate it to particular RPM and will traverse through it in a particular RPM. So as the tool move forward, the plasticized material flow around the pin. What happened is that if tool is rotated, normally there will be friction generated. Due to the friction, heat generated. Due to the heat generation, our material will transform into a plastic zone or plastic region. So in the plastic zone, the material can easily flow around the pin and consolidated by the forward movement of the shoulder, leaving behind the processed zone. So there's a friction between the tool and the workpiece that result in the localized heating and also that softens and plasticizes the workpiece. So a volume of processed material is produced by the movement of materials from the front of the pin and back of the pin. So the front of the pin, in technical terms, we call it as an advancing side, and the later we call it as the retreating side. So the material from the retreating side will pack towards the advanced sides. That's what we call it as a chaotic mixing. That is, we take one material from the one side and replace one material to the other side. That is the technology. So during this process, our material will undergo intense plastic deformation. So what happened? This lead to significant grain refinement. So major thing, this friction stir processing is not only we use, or this technology is not only we use for the development of composite. It can be also used as a tool for the grain refinement, and also it can be also used for the microstructure homogenization. And this also it can be used as a development of surface or bulk composites, and also we can use technology for crack repair and selective alloying. Selective alloying is all the latest technology in which we are particularly subject the alloying element to the required field only or required portion. We do not alloy completely our material, but where the material in contact with the particular application like friction or wear, we replace that with the specific selective alloying technique, and also be possible with the help of the friction stir processing. And in addition, so what I'm again confirming that mainly the process is a very important tool for the production of metal matrix. Earlier we have seen the stir casting. So stir casting, additionally, it have a variety of pros advance, right? Because already we are again heating and reaching to the melting point and slow downing. So again reaching to liquid state and coming down to solid state. So resolidifications take place. In addition to that, we will get property variation. So while we choose friction stir processing, we can have a very number of additional improvement to the material. And as first is the grain refinement. So this technique is earlierly used for the refining of alloys. What we do is that we take an alloy and we run our FSP tool to the surface of the material. So what happened is that the grain refinement is taking place formerly. We can have a good mechanical property variation, and also the structure that is developed during the stir casting we can homogenize it with the help of this friction stir processing. Why? Because dynamic recrystallization take place during the friction stir processing. And this technology also used for the surface or bulk composite development. And this technology is also used for crack repair. So if you seen any kind of defect that is occurring in our casting or in our metal alloys, we do FSP process so that the region will undergo stirring process, then plastic deformation and mechanical, and you will get a metallurgical joining or metallurgical bonding that is occurring in that particular area. So we'll discuss it a case study in which what we have done is that we take the aluminum 2024. This shows the microstructure analysis of as received 2024, and this also shows the grain structure of the corresponding grain map for the misorientation you can see in the angle distribution. Okay, so the as received 2024 plate initially the studies are undergone to find the size of the microstructure. So why? Because we are going to check the same stir casting, and also we need to check with the friction stir processing, and we will find or we will see what is the advancement while compared to our friction stir processing and stir casting procedure. So similarly, we choose here we choose tungsten carbide. The later case study I have shown with the silicon carbide, and here we choose tungsten carbide. As you can see here, the morphology of tungsten, the particle, the part in the powder form, that is around 4 micron meter we chose, and the morphology of the particle distribution and the XRD pattern of the as received tungsten carbide particles as shown in the figure. So most of this particle have this uniform round-like structure because these particles are incorporated into the matrix. Size of the particle is also very important. As I mentioned at the beginning, it can be of a flakes, it can be of a rounded particle, it can be of a globular, it can be a square particle. So this round particle will give more adherence to the matrix. That's why we have chosen this carbon tungsten carbide powder, and also this titanium carbide powder with a 4 micrometer. Even silicon carbide also we choose in that range only. So this is the usual stir casting procedure we do carried out, and this is the electrical stir casting furnace machine, and that is the preheating furnace. So before we go for the stir casting machine, definitely you should have to preheat the furnace. So what happened is that everything, whatever, that is one of the importance of what we noticed while during the production of aluminum matrix composite. So if we directly put all the particles into the stir casting furnace, there may be a lot of issue that is associated with the during the solidification of the material. Oxide formation is there, and incompatibility, that is a matrix phase or the particles are not incompatible with the metal matrix and creates a lot of wettability issue also. So better preheat everything, whether you are metal you are pouring or you are any kind of alloying element, or if you are using any kind of chromate particles, all the thing you have to preheat before pouring into the electrical stir casting machine. And this is the scanning electron this is the titanium, this is the tungsten carbide metal matrix combos incorporated in the aluminum 2024 matrix, and the SEM micrograph showing the dispersed WC particles. So, and also it shows typical energy backscattered diffractive analysis, EBSD. Image also shows the grain structure of the casted aluminum WC MMC. So first what we have done is, in order to check the comparison, we do stir casting of aluminum WC. So as you can see that in aluminum WC MMC, these particles can clearly visible, right? That scanning electron microscope, these particles are get uniformly in the sense more or less dispersed in the material. Even though we go with a stringent usage, so as a case of a literature or a research purpose, we can say that we get a better improvement in the mechanical property, such as etc. But in case of production sector or in industrial sector, we cannot comply with these kind of literatures. That's the most of the literatures that we cannot incorporate toward the industry. Why? Because it is only a case studies. While we incorporate this towards a larger component, assume that if the particles are agglomerated at some point of time, there is no chances that it have the particular variation property from one section to another section. So even though we can say it is a homogeneous and no defect or something, etc., but we required the particles more or less dispersed in the matrix. Otherwise, we won't able to achieve and create a new dispersed phase. And this also, if at the composite body have manufactured through this casting route. Then the next what we do is that we go on with the friction stir processing. So friction stir processing, as I have discussed the principle, we required a tool. And this tool is made up of, we choose aluminum 2024. That's why we have chosen EN31 as a tool material, that is tool steel. But most of the researchers, what we have conducted with 5 series and 6 series, this tool will create more wear while moving on to the more number of passes. So we have replaced this with different varieties of HSS tools. So that is another research area in friction stir processing. So if you modify the tool accordingly, you can produce a different variety of results. Now, as you can see there, it produces a cylindrical pin, right? You can use a round pin, you can use a square pin, you can use threaded pin, you can use a triangular pin, or you can also use concave shoulder, irrespective of a straight shoulder. So tool geometry is only a research. So you can do a large number of experiment with the by changing different tool material and tool geometry. Automatically that will improve the variety of performance in our material also. So before we do trials, definitely we required a hardness. So hardness of the tool. In order to get the hardness of the tool towards a very high, what we do is that we undergo heat treatment process. That normally we quench to a quenching oil and tempered at around 100 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. And so we go for the hardening procedure, tool hardening procedure. So normally we can improve the hardness of the tool. It will be helpful while we using the friction stir processing. Then this is the friction stir processing equipment. As you can see here, we can place or mount the specimen by using a suitable clamping devices. This clamping force is also very important because while we plunge our material, this plate will get deformation. In order to avoid such deformation, we use different type of clamping mechanisms. And this is the tool holder. It is similar to that of your drill bit. Okay, we are placing it in a holder, then we'll rotate that towards a particular RPM with the help of certain kind of driver associated with the column of the machine. So one important thing is that you should not require friction stir welding equipment for friction stir processing. In our department, if you're having a vertical milling machine, you can easily convert this towards a friction stir welding apparatus. As everyone know this, but most of the work we can do with the friction stir welding apparatus. And most of the sophisticated friction stir welding apparatus have a different kind of technology that is incorporated, that is for cooling and for setting the rake angle, etc. Leaving that part, if you irrespective of that, if you want to do a good number of trials, you can also do with the help of our vertical milling machine, provided you need to design a tool holder accordingly that fits to the column. Then you can we can easily perform the friction stir processing. So the parameter what we choose for friction stir processing is that 1400 RPM and traverse speed of 30 millimeter per minute. That is, we've conducted large number of trials. That is one of the important thing while we do with the friction stir processing is the cross parameter optimization. That is a tedious task, because even though it is a solid state technology, there are a lot of defects associated with the solid state technology. If you are cut section or cross section of our material specimen, what you can see is that large number of defects are occurring in the material. More or less, this you will get complete packing within the material, complete throughout the uniform distribution, or also the material it's plunged throughout the bottom of the tool. Then only you can say that complete thing will incorporated during the friction stir processing. And once after the friction stir processing with this tool, you can see a stirring region here, right? It's having a stirring region, and the stirring region is having a fine grain structure. You can occur in the nugget area. So in the zone, compared to the base metal, you can have a large variety of increment in the properties, especially the microstructure modification can occur in that scenario. So while we compare this, the optical micrograph of the metal matrix composite we developed via stir casting and friction stir processing. You can see there, normally there will be an improvement in the friction stir processing. So the same thing we manufactured with the metal matrix composite. This is the aluminum. See, aluminum 2024, after stir casting, it get transformed like this. So this is the initial grain. This coarse grain get reduced to fine grain. And due to the dynamic recrystallization, this medium grain is again undergo series of recrystallization procedure along with the particle adhesion. What happened is that again you will get a more fine grain that is occurring after the friction stir processing. The same thing also we have noticed with the scanning electron microscopic images of the particle distribution. So the particle is more uniformly distributed in a friction stir processing while compared to that of this stir casting. But we cannot say that this one is good, this one is bad. Each have its own variance, its own application. We try to attempt the same AMC with stir casting and FSP. We notice an improvement in property to the FSP specimen while compared to that of the stir cast components. And as you can see there, this is the aluminum 2024, and this clearly you can see these dendrite particles are visibly in the microstructure embedded. And also after doing the friction stir processing, this gets submerged or uniformly merged with the grains along the particles we have added. So it shows the aluminum 2024 and 2024 WC that is casted, and this is the friction stir process. And more or less we say that the secondary particles are more dissolutely identified during the XRD or EDAX results what we have obtained. And also there is a significant improvement in the hardness value, of the composites. What we have derived, that is pure aluminum having the hardness in the range below 120, and this aluminum 2024, the alloy, it's having a higher hardness than the stir cast component having little bit more hardness, and the FSP component or FSP composite AMC shows a larger hardness value while compared to that of all the three set of composites or the pure metal. So pure metal, then alloy, then we stir cast, then we FSP. So the major factors that affect the hardness is the tool rotation and traverse speed, and also the mechanical property of the stir stone like precipitation and dislocation density. So these will add up the property improvement, that is mechanical property variation with respect to the hardness profile graph. Then similarly, the wear rate is also improved drastically while compared to that of the stir cast component. While compared to that of the aluminum 2024 metal, it gets aluminum 2024 is aluminum copper as the major alloying element that has the poor wear resistance property. So in order to incorporate the wear resistance property, incorporated reinforcement as a WC, and this WC after we done a friction stir processing, we can improve the wear profile of the material. Then the next attempt and also the corrosion test result also we checked shows that the better corrosion rates or the weight loss is lesser while compared to that of the composite we are done via the stir casting procedure. So what the summary or what we can summarize from this is that aluminum matrix composite can efficiently be manufactured by in situ method, and uniform distribution of ceramic particles along the materials are first achieved by friction stir processing. So once we develop a composite via in situ method, and that particle we modified using the friction stir processing. And also this WC particles were fragmented and broken up due to the higher plastic strain and the vigorous rotating action of the tool during the friction stir processing, with the average particle size decreased with the increased volume fraction of WC particles. And also there is tungsten carbide particles were well bounded to the aluminum without any pores and discernible interfacial products. And this FSP is used as a tool to enhance the uniform distribution of particles along the surface of the matrix, which will result in the mechanical as well as microstructural modification of our specimens. Okay, this is the casted specimen, we do FSP. The next approach, what we done is that, and this shows the different scope in which you can do the work. You can incorporate silicon carbide, you can incorporate titanium carbide, also you can incorporate nanoparticles along with this, and also you can improve the more number of passes with the friction stir processing. That is also tailored the right composition of the reinforcement particles, so we can work on those fields. The next attempt what we have conducted is that we have produced surface composite. Earlier we have developed a bulk composite, and the next attempts were done to produce surface composite with this technology, that is friction stir processing technology. So we all know that surface composite are suitable materials for engineering application, that is encountering surface interactions. They are a class of materials in which a surface contain dispersed secondary phase and the core of the material remain the same. That means up to a particular depth only we are manufacturing or fabricating the composite. That means that most of our metal will expose to surface, even in a corrosion or even in wear or even in practical application, the majority surface will come to an action. So if you are improving the surface of the material, what happens? Normally the property can also be altered to a very high extent. So on that context, we developed surface composite via friction stir processing technology. What we have done is, initially, we prepared a groove on the material. We prepared a groove on the material of 1 mm to 1 mm thick groove, and this groove is filled with the secondary particle. Secondary particle like silicon carbide, or you can use titanium carbide, aluminum oxide, or you can use even nano composite also. And this groove is filled with this particle by making it as a slurry with the ethanol or methanol available. Then the next is that once placing or once filling the slurry in this groove, we do a friction stir processing with a pin-free tool. Why we required pin-free tool is that initially first kind of trial is done. Initially first kind of trial is done to cap the material. Clear? What happened is that irrespective that we are not using this thing, that is a very common issue that is associated while our students and researchers also do with the friction stir processing technique. So while without cap pass, if you do friction stir processing, the particle will get expelled out from the groove. In order to avoid that, we required the maximum particles should be present inside the matrix. So we do initially we do a cap to close the groove, then we do the friction stir processing with the help of developed tool as shown here. We developed tool, and this is the groove we have manufactured, and also this is the we incorporated silicon carbide and bagasse ash towards this groove. We add both things. Clear? Silicon carbide particles, as you can see here, the same image of our silicon carbide, and also you can see same image of our bagasse ash. We mix both and we place in the groove. Then we have done the friction stir processing. So to develop the surface composite, not the bulk composite, to develop the surface composite. And there is large process optimization has gone on different trials by altering the tool speed, feed rate and tilt angle. And we have checked with more or less different number of experiments were conducted to optimize the process parameter to obtain the good surface finish as well as the good bonding without a defect we required. So we gone for a different number of paths also. From that we have developed many variety of composites with the surface, especially surface composite with the bagasse ash technology. And as you can see there, the optical micrograph of various composite. And while moving on to the weight percentage of bagasse ash, we can see that the particles are more clearly distributed in the uniformly dispersed phase. Because we use this 5 series, it also contains silicon carbide particle also. So what happened is that during friction stir processing, the silicon carbide particles were uniformly distributed throughout the matrix. So we do number of passes. If you do number of passes, what happened is that the particle somewhere agglomerated that also will move towards from that particular place, and we'll get a clear uniform distribution of those particles. And also our hardness profile graph also shows significant improvement in the hardness value of the developed composite with the developed surface composite. And also the yield strength and about the wear rate of the developed composite also is fairly high while compared with the, or while we done with the friction stir processing technology. And in the 6% it get as a maximum ultimate tensile strength is occurred with the elongation of 10% elongation is notified there. Then, so from this, what we can confer is that this addition of this reinforced Bagay-Sachs silicon carbide enhances the property of surface composite compared to AL505's base material. The same case or the same thing we have done with circ casting also. That is bulk composite. What this trial of experiment is only the surface composite. That is, the advantage is that we can omit the liquid processing route. And also the wettability issue is solved by using the friction stir processing. And also we are not developing the bulk composite, only we develop surface composite. These surface composite, while coming in contact with any of the particular application or field extended application, phenomenally the property can be shooted towards a very high extent. And this FSP also improved the surface properties of the composite, which has immense application in areas where bulk property of the enhancement is not required. And as introduction of Bagay-Sachs promoted the scope for sustainability to the waste disposal, then this surface composite, hybrid surface composite also have a less agglomeration of particles while compared to that of what the other technique we have adopted. Though these are all the techniques, and one of the other technique what we can follow is the ultrasonic assisted circ casting. So in this ultrasonic assisted stir casting, the melt were subjected to ultrasonic treatment under two different conditions. So ultrasonic testing was performed outside the furnace during the air cooling, and nearly isothermal ultrasonic testing within the furnace particle. So the reinforcing agent dispersed by the ultrasonic treatment has greatly improved the mechanical response of the fabricated composite material. So the coefficient of thermal expansion as well as mechanism were the two factors that contribute the strength of the produced composite. So the extensive fracture analysis that revealed quasi-static cleavage fracture, that is in the iso ultrasonic treatment composite materials. So this technology or ultrasonic assisted stir casting process, this methodology employed for ultrasonic assisted stir casting was similar to the simple stir casting technique. So in this technique, after pouring or after proper mixing of the molten metal, the stirrer was replaced with an ultrasonic probe. So a higher power ultrasonic vibration device was used to produce the ultrasonic treatment by the transducer in the molten metal, and processing temperature was maintained at 620 degrees Celsius. And the preheated 19 mm diameter ultrasonic horn, as you can see there, ultrasonic horn was inserted 15 to 20 mm below the surface of the melt. And the ultrasonic treatment was done at 1.5 kilowatt power at the level of 180 seconds. So during the solidification process, many dendrites with multiple branches can form in the casting and reduce the mechanical property of the composite. So in order to eliminate this type of dendrite structures, ultrasonic vibration was introduced into the casting. So this, what happened is that this vibration can break up the dendrite structures and spread the particle uniformly in the casting. The power and the frequency of the ultrasonic treatment device, we can vary up to 2 kilowatt, I guess so, 2 kilowatt to 20 kilohertz respectively. And also we can use the rule of mixture to identify the rule of mixture were used to predict the different properties of the composite material. So this shows the mathematical expression for density of fiber reinforced composite in terms of density and volume fraction of the constant that is given by where rho m is the density of the matrix metal and rho f is density of the reinforcement. Vm is the volume fraction of the metal matrix and Vf is the volume fraction of the reinforcement. So the flow chart of the ultrasonic assisted surcasting process is shown there. That's what I have discussed. So we do additionally, we give an ultrasonic treatment with the help of a transducer or a probe to the molten metal, so that we can improve the property additionally. So the microstructure reveals that the figure illustrates the composite manufactured following stir casting without ultrasonic vibration. So both the figure shows one is the with the ultrasonic vibration stir casting and one is the ultrasonic vibration without the ultrasonic vibration stir casting. So the image, the non-uniform dispersal of silicon carbide microparticles in the aluminum alloy metric is very evident. The silicon carbide particles adhered to each other and formed clusters, which can be explained as the non-uniform distribution of mechanical properties. So to facilitate proper distribution of silicon carbide, this microparticle in the metric space, an ultrasonic probe was inserted to introduce the ultrasonic energy into the molten metal. So the energy broke the cluster and dispersed them into the matrix material. So agglomeration and clustering can be attributed to high viscosity, large surface to volume ratio, poor wettability in the metric space. And however, it illustrates the uniform distribution or dispersal of silicon carbide particles in the metal matrix composite due to the combined effects of mechanical stirring and ultrasonic treatment. So high power ultrasonic vibrations produced acoustic streaming also, and a strong cavitation effects. So the transient cavitation might have created sufficient impulsive effect to scatter this clustered particle and scatter them homogeneously in the liquid. So additionally, acoustic streaming is very effective for stirring. And also there are similar non-linear effect include the acoustic streaming and cavitation, that is due to the injection of this ultrasonic energy into the molten alloys. There should be acoustic cavitation which results in the pulsation, which results in the pulsation, formation and collapse of micro bubbles in the liquid metal. So while we supplying this ultrasonic vibration, there is a chances of collapsing of these micro bubbles that is developed in the liquid metal with the strong ultrasonic wave what we have delivered during the stirring process. And also the scanning electron microscopic images of aluminum 5083 alloy reinforced with 10% of silicon particles. The composite manufactured using conventional stir casting process presents many large elongated grain structure in the scanning electron microscopy images. Then we can move on with another technology. We call it as the disintegrated melt deposition technology. In addition to what so far we discussed, this also can be used for the development of metal matrix composite. Here a composite slurry that is based on a stir casting principle is produced first. The ensuring slurry is then passed through the pouring nozzle with the inert jet gas. So with the inert jet gas at a superheated temperature, that is around 750 degrees Celsius, finally the slurry gets deposited onto the metallic substrate. So the end product of the disintegrated melt deposition process is an ingot, which then can be hot extruded to obtain desired shape. This can be obtained in the disintegrated melt technology. So large varieties of disintegrated composite technology were used to produce a magnesium-based or a silicon aluminum-based composite for the fabrication of metal matrix composite. So this technology and this hot extrusion methodology that is also used to synthesize the elemental carbonized reinforced magnesium to avoid the porosity. So by using this disintegrated melt deposition technology, we can minimize the porosity of the component what we have what we can generate. Then also the technology we can incorporate as the semi-solid casting technique is also we can use to produce the production of metal matrix compounds that use the pressure gas infiltration technique. That is also the different various steps are shown here. The slurry is then placed in a plunger and the plunger is then placed towards a die cavity. This will happen. So normally what happened is that due to this stirring, again the particle will get more or less uniformly distributed after the procedure, and the strengthening of the composite also take place during the final procedure. Then another method is the powder metallurgy route. So powder metallurgy is considered as a solid state manufacturing method that is based up on 3 sequential steps. We all know that. That is a blending of the matrix metal, blending of the matrix metal powders and the reinforcement particles in the desired composition. Then compaction to produce green compacts, and sintering using resistance or microwave energy. Then what happened upon sintering? There is another finishing process also applied to ensure the consolidation of the produced composite, which may involve EQ channel angular pressing, ECAP procedure. Then most of the research work are there in powder metallurgy for development of aluminum based metal matrix composite as EQ channel angular pressing technique. That is an extrusion technique process that is uses at elevated temperature. So there are many numerous advantages of powder metallurgy over the conventional manufacturing method what we have discussed so far. That is, the first one is ability to produce near net shape components. That is the one important thing. Then second one is capability to integrate higher volume fractions of the reinforcement and ability to produce larger batches. That is for the automotive application, it can produce larger number of batches. And this shows a schematic representation of aluminum Si3N4 nano composite. Okay, so this is a initially, we take the powders, we can take the aluminum matrix as a powder, then silicon nitrate as nanoparticle are also as a powders, and we mix with the help of the ball milling technology. Then we go on for the cold compaction technique with the help of a green billet or a die. With the help of a die and pinch arrangement, we can produce a green compact initially. Then after that, we move towards the microwave sintering. This is what I have said, the plasma arc sintering is also used along with this. Then finally, this microwave sintered specimen will lead to the hot extruded product. So we can reduce we can take the component as such. So we can produce large number of components via powder metallurgy technique. Then, all right. Then the production cost for the selected route. So while I am focusing more towards the industrial scenario, it has been found that the survey that today powder metallurgy and casting are the 2 top choices for producing metal matrix composite. The cost of production process has a significant influence on the process selection decision. And in the following figure, you can see that or compare the production cost between casting, powder metallurgy and additive manufacturing. The AM that is represent the additive manufacturing. So the energy consumed per unit mass of additive manufacturing is high comparing to casting and powder metallurgy, where some of the largest contributors to total energy consumption in the additive manufacturing are laser, motors, pumps, heaters, computers, and system energy losses. The energy consumption in casting is normally proportional to the mass of the part produced because the energy required to melt the material dominates. So powder metallurgy has the lowest energy consumption per unit mass and has a high raw material utilization over 95%. So these energy savings alone contribute considerably to the economic advantages that is offered by the EPM technique. So it is also important that to consider the primary material production as for powders, as it consumes more energy than any other process what we have mentioned so far. So therefore, what we can say is that lower energy consumption per unit mass of powder metallurgy is an encouragement for considering and using this process for processing with the help of or processing of metal matrix composite. And the figure B that is also shows the part unit cost trend as a function of production volume. So casting is the most expensive manufacturing route for smaller volume due to the equipment, tooling and energy cost. But the production volume increases, normally what happens, the cost will decrease exponentially. And after a threshold production volume, the casting route become extremely cost effective. Then powder metallurgy is the most economical option than the casting for production volumes of up 20,000 per year. So what we can confer is that then additive manufacturing. So this additive manufacturing that can be incorporated in this technology. However, this route is more economical than total production volume, that is a few hundred parts. But nevertheless, this technology has major advantages over casting and powder metallurgy. It can produce small and medium-sized complex functional parts, that is 3D printed manufactured components. Then also this predicted cost of this thing will be comparatively lower while comparison with the additive manufacturing parts. Then the manufacturing production trends for the upcoming years. So the manufacturing sections, what they showed that, or the industry sector, what they have pointed out that in scenario 1, assume that the investment rate in the additive manufacturing machine will be double after 5 years. And the investment rate in the conventional machines will fall back to 33% after 10 years. So the scenario 2 assumes that the annual difference in the investment rate continues to be 19% on average for coming decades. So that the capital stock and manufacturing production of additive manufacturing machine will be equal to that of the conventional machine in 2060. So the prediction show that the current investment rate in the additive manufacturing machine continues. 50% of the manufactured product will be additively manufactured by 2060. With this possibly being achieved as early as 2040. So automotive, aerospace, medical, dental device, then industrial, then machinery, and consumer producers products are the top industries, that is investment or investors in additive manufacturing and larger players in the world trade. So the effect on this will be higher on over a larger. So still what we say that we are moving with the conventional technology, and also in addition to the additive manufacturing, technology also plays a vital role in the upcoming emerging area in the production or development of the metal matrix composites. So what I have concluded to this session is that the final property of the composite material strongly depend upon the metal matrix, dispersed material and type, whether a single, hybrid or coated, whatever it may be. And the fabrication method used for the MMC production, that is also very much important or very much need to be considered. Then minimum damage to the dispersed phase, then preservation of dispersed phase, strength in the matrix, then uniform distribution and promotion of wetting and bonding between the matrix phase are the key factors that dictate the selection of production route for specific matrix and reinforcement materials. And powder metallurgy and casting routes are commonly used in academia industry for production of MMC, used to seize the process and degree afforded over a controlled interface between the matrix and dispersed phase. Then a hybrid dispersed material that is also offers the possibility to design composite that provide better all-round combination of properties. So these allow for well-defined part properties. And also additive manufacturing such as selective laser melting, laser melt deposition, laser cladding, ultrasonic additive manufacturing, selective laser sintering, and binder jetting 3D printing could provide a new method for production of tailored MMCs within the single step production process. So even though as a concluding remarks, each process has its own variety of application and needs. So selection of the right material, selection of the reinforcement and selection of the correct production route for fabrication of metal matrix composite is still a challenge. And these are all my references. And thank you for the patience of listening. If you have any queries, you can discuss.
Thank you, Harish sir. So participants, if you have any queries, please post it in the chat box, or you can directly ask our Harish sir. Participants, please, if you have any queries, you can post it in the chat box.
If you have any queries, please feel free to ask so that I can share the knowledge what I have.
I think there is no queries. If there's no queries, we can stop it here. So thank you very much, Mr. Harish sir, for your enlightening session. Feedback link is shared in the chat box. You can click on the link and you can share your valuable feedback. And once again, thank you, Harish sir, for your valuable session and conveying your immense knowledge to participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you all for listening to this session. Thank you all.
Participants, please note, feedback link is shared in chat box. Kindly click the link and give your valuable feedback. Rupio.